Hold onto your hats, ladies and gentlemen, because you're about to plunge headfirst into the most earth-shattering political scandal Britain has ever witnessed. This isn't just a story, it's a roller coaster of corruption, betrayal, and raw, unfiltered justice that's left the nation gasping for air. At the center of it all, Angela Rayner, the once mighty Deputy Prime Minister, now a broken figure weeping in disgrace as she's hauled off to a prison cell, her career reduced to rubble, her name forever etched in infamy. The Lady Chief Justice, Dame Sue Carr, didn't just drop the gavel. She unleashed a thunderclap so deafening it's still rattling the foundations of Westminster, sending shockwaves across the land and igniting a firestorm of debate that's tearing the country apart. But before we dive into this electrifying saga that's got tongues wagging from London to Liverpool, I need you, yes, you, to smash that subscribe button and flood the comments below with your wildest thoughts. Why? Because this is only the beginning. Folks, if you don't subscribe right now, you'll miss the next mind-blowing expose that could flip everything you know upside down. We're ripping the lid off the cesspool of power, exposing the dirty secrets of the elite, and fighting for the soul of democracy. Don't you dare sit this one out. Tell us in the comments, is Rayner a villain who got her comeuppance, or a pawn in a bigger game? Hit subscribe and let's dive into the chaos. Let's set the stage. A courtroom so tense you could slice the air with a butter knife, every seat packed with wide-eyed spectators, and the weight of history pressing down like a 1,000-ton anvil. Angela Rayner, the woman who once strode through Parliament with the swagger of a conqueror, stood trembling before Dame Sue Carr, the Lady Chief Justice whose steely gaze could melt steel. For months, the rumors had festered, whispers of a sinister plot, a conspiracy so bold it threatened to unravel the very fabric of British democracy. But no one, not the sharpest pundits, not the chattiest cabbies, could have foreseen the bombshell that was about to detonate. When Dame Sue Carr opened her mouth, the world stopped spinning. "Angela Rayner," she declared, her voice a blade of ice, "you have been found guilty of gross misconduct and a heinous abuse of power, a deliberate assault on the sacred democratic rights of millions." Bam! The sentence. Years behind bars. A punishment so colossal it's being hailed as the most monumental ruling in modern UK history. The charge. Rayner, in a fit of arrogance, had allegedly tried to strangle Reform UK, the populist juggernaut led by the indomitable Nigel Farage, in its crib, stomping on the dreams of voters to keep Labour's rotting empire afloat. And the reaction? Pure, unadulterated pandemonium. Rayner, the Iron Lady of the left, crumbled like a house of cards, tears gushing down her face, her body quaking as the reality hit her like a freight train. Witnesses say she looked like a ghost, her eyes hollow, her spirit shattered as bailiffs clamped the cuffs on her wrists and dragged her away to face the music. Outside, the streets erupted, cheers from Reform UK diehards clashing with the stunned silence of Labour loyalists, while X lit up with a tidal wave of memes, rants, and hot takes that crashed the servers. This wasn't just a verdict, it was a revolution. So how did Angela Rayner, the working-class hero-turned-political titan, plummet from grace to disgrace? Rewind the clock to a decision so outrageous it sparked a rebellion. Rayner, drunk on power, waved her magic wand and cancelled local elections in 9 council areas. We talking East Sussex, West Sussex, Essex, Hampshire, the Isle of Wight, Norfolk, Suffolk, and beyond, regions where over 5 million voters were suddenly stripped of their voices, left stranded in a democratic wasteland. Labour's excuse? A flimsy tale about restructuring councils from a two-tier system to unitary authorities, all wrapped up in the noble bow of devolution. But hold the phone, because the truth was about to claw its way out, and it was uglier than a sore rat. These weren't just any areas. Oh no, these were Reform UK's strongholds, the battlegrounds where Farage's ragtag army of patriots was ready to storm the gates and claim victory. Political sleuths sniffed out the stench of corruption faster than you can say election fraud. The delays, conveniently pushed to 2026, weren't about logistics. They were a surgical strike to cripple Reform UK's momentum, a desperate gambit to keep Labour's claws sunk into power. Nigel Farage, with his trademark fire, roared into the fray, bellowing, "This is election interference so shameless it's a slap in the face to every Brit who believes in freedom." And he wasn't alone. The Conservative Party's big guns, like Shadow Housing Secretary Kevin Hollinrake, piled on, screaming about an Orwellian nightmare cooked up in Labour's lair. The public, they were beyond furious. They were apocalyptic. Pubs turned into war zones of debate. X became a battlefield of hashtags like #Raynagate and #Democracy Under Siege, and grassroots activists flooded the streets with placards demanding justice. Rayner had lit a match, and Britain was about to go up in flames. Fast forward to the trial that had the nation hooked like a soap opera on steroids. The courtroom was a pressure cooker, prosecutors swaggering in with a mountain of evidence that could bury Rayner 6 feet under, while her defense team flailed like fish out of water. The allegations were explosive. Rayner had allegedly twisted the electoral process into a pretzel, all to choke out Reform UK and prop up Labour's crumbling throne. Government insiders turned snitches, spilling tea hotter than a volcano. Secret meetings, hushed phone calls, and a paper trail of memos that screamed guilty. One whistleblower dropped a bombshell that left the gallery gasping. Rayner had been warned by her own advisors that her election stunt was a legal minefield, but she'd laughed it off, tossing their pleas into the shredder. Another insider claimed she'd bragged about teaching Farage a lesson, her hubris oozing like oil from a busted rig. The prosecution's star exhibit? A timeline so damning it was practically a smoking gun. Every delay, every cancelled vote, lined up like dominoes with Reform UK's polling surges. Coincidence? Not a chance. And then came Rayner's turn in the hot seat. Picture it. The deputy PM, sweat beading on her brow, her voice wobbling as she tried to spin a yarn about protecting the public interest. But the jury wasn't swallowing her sob story, not for a millisecond. She rambled, she stumbled, she even choked up as the cracks in her armor widened. By the end, she was a sobbing wreck, mascara streaking her face as she begged for forgiveness, a pitiful shadow of the titan she'd once been. Legal eagles tore her apart, pointing to gaping holes in her excuses. Why these counsels? Why this timing? The answers were as obvious as Big Ben. Rayner wanted Reform UK dead, and she'd burn the rulebook to do it. When Dame Sue Carr stood to deliver her verdict, the silence was deafening. Her words hit like a sledgehammer. "Angela Rayner, your actions constitute a grotesque betrayal of the democratic principles this nation holds dear, a calculated, cold-blooded scheme to manipulate the will of the people. Guilty, guilty, guilty." The sentence, a prison stretch so staggering it's being called the death knell for political corruption in Britain. As the ruling sank in, Rayner imploded, sobs racking her body, her hands clutching the dock as if it could save her from the abyss. Bailiffs swooped in, and just like that, she was gone, a fallen queen led away in chains. The aftermath, total insanity. Reform UK's faithful hit the streets, popping champagne and chanting Farage's name like he was a rock star. "This is our victory." Farage thundered on live TV, vowing to dismantle the rotten system brick by brick. Meanwhile, Labour HQ was a ghost town, party bosses ducking cameras, insiders leaking tales of panic and finger-pointing. Reports surfaced that Rayner had ignored pleas from senior Labour figures to back off, her ego blinding her to the tsunami of ruin barreling her way. Keir Starmer, the PM himself, was said to be white as a sheet, his dream of a Labour dynasty crumbling faster than a sandcastle at high tide. The ripples didn't stop at the courtroom door. They crashed across Britain like a tidal wave. From Cornwall to the Highlands, people couldn't stop talking. Was Rayner a monster who got her just deserts, or a sacrificial lamb for Labour's sins? Polling guru Lord Hayward dropped a truth bomb, claiming Reform UK was this close to snagging its first council wins, proof Rayner's meddling had robbed history from Farage's grasp. X exploded with hashtags like #JusticeForReform and #Rayner behind bars, while conspiracy nuts spun wild theories about shadowy cabals pulling the strings. And then, enter Elon Musk, the billionaire maverick who's turned this drama into a global circus. Musk, already a cheerleader for right-wing rebels across Europe, fired off tweets that sent Labour into a tailspin, cryptic jabs about tyranny in Westminster and the People's Reckoning. Was he bankrolling Reform UK's rise? Plotting to topple Starmer's regime? The rumour mill churned over time, with insiders whispering that Musk's private jets were buzzing between London and Tesla HQ, hatching plans to shake Britain to its core. For Labour, it's a catastrophe of biblical proportions. Once the darlings of the working class, they are now the poster boys for hypocrisy, clinging to power with dirty tricks while preaching fairness. Internal polls leaked to the press painted a grim picture. Voters abandoning ship, trust in tatters, and Reform UK surging like a tsunami. Those 5 million disenfranchised souls in the cancelled councils, they are not just mad, they are out for vengeance, and Farage is their general, rallying them with cries of never again. While Rayner rots in her cell, Reform UK is riding the wave of outrage to dizzying heights. Farage, the man who turned Brexit into a battering ram, is now the face of a movement that's got the establishment quaking. This isn't just a win, it's a war cry, he bellowed at a rally, his supporters waving Union Jacks and chanting for real change. With 5 MPs already in Parliament and millions of votes from the 2024 election, Reform UK is no longer a fringe player. It's a juggernaut, fueled by public fury and Musk's cryptic endorsements. But it's not all sunshine and roses. Critics warn that Farage's populist fire could burn too hot, torching the fragile balance of British politics. The Conservatives, licking their wounds after years of infighting, are scrambling to claw back ground, while Labour's left-wing mutters about a coup to oust Starmer and salvage their sinking ship. Analysts say this scandal could redraw the political map, Reform UK eyeing councils, parliament seats, maybe even number 10 if Musk's money keeps flowing. As the dust settles, Angela Rayner's fate looms large, a warning to every politician who dares toy with democracy. Her teas in that courtroom weren't just personal. They were the death rattle of an era where the elite could rig the game and walk away unscathed. Dame Sue Carr's verdict wasn't just a sentence. It was a beacon, a promise that no one's above the law, not even a deputy PM with a swagger and a smirk. But the story's far from over. Labour's on the ropes, Reform UK's on the march, and Musk's shadow stretches longer every day. Will Britain emerge stronger, or fracture under the weight of this upheaval? One thing's for sure, Rayner's downfall is a saga for the ages, a tale of hubris, justice, and a nation at a crossroads. So, what's your take? Was Rayner a crook who got caught, or a scapegoat for a rotting system? Flood the comments with your hottest opinions, and if you're not subscribed yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Smash that button and join the revolution. This is history in the making, and we're not slowing down. The fight for Britain's future is on, and you're in the front row.